Agenda Kenya tonight, Bramwell Kisuya, Commissioner, Poverty Eradication Commission, Ken Jiru, Executive Director, Ungwana Resource Institute, Tazim Elkington, self-styled Indian black butterfly, who also refers to herself as a paradigm shifter. And last but not least, Dr. Jacinta Ndambuki, consultant in governance, human resource and education. Hello and thanks for joining us. This is Agenda Kenya, your award-winning talk show. My name is Jason Nyantino. I've got a fantastic audience with me tonight, people all the way from Burnt Forest in the Rift Valley, Voi from Coast Province, and of course, Nairobians, welcome aboard. Tonight's focus, we are looking at poverty, one of the biggest challenges facing successive governments in Kenya since independence. What are the best solutions out of this problem? But before we start off, some facts and figures.
Poverty eradication by 2015 is one of the Millennium Development Goals identified by the UN. In Kenya, the National Bureau of Statistics estimates that by 2005, about 46% of Kenyans were living below the poverty line. This means that over 15 million Kenyans are poor. Previously, the percentage of the poor stood at 56% in the year 2000. According to the UNDP 2006 report, 50% of Kenyans are living below the poverty line. UNDP also estimates that 1 in every 2 Kenyans lives below the poverty line. In 2005, the United Nations ranked Kenya as 154th poorest country in the world. According to Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the poverty levels improved in 2006 as compared to the previous years. The number of poor people per province by 2006 stood at the following percentages. In Central Province, 30% of the people were living below the poverty line, while in Coast Province, nearly 70% of the population was poor. People who lived below the poverty line were as follows in the remaining provinces. Eastern Province, 51%, Rift Valley Province 49%, Northeastern Province 74%, Nyanza Province 48%, Western Province 52%, and Nairobi 21%. According to the Economic Survey 2009 report, Kenya's economy slid back to recession in 2008, recording a paltry 1.7% growth compared to 6.8% it recorded in 2007. The survey states that the average annual inflation rate rose from 9.8% in 2007 to 26.2% in 2008, the highest since 1994. The survey also revealed that maize production declined from an estimated 32.5 million bags in 2007 to 26.0 million bags produced in 2008. With this gloomy picture, should Kenyans therefore expect a reduction in poverty anytime soon?
So to start us off this evening is Michael Mwakazi, who is a youth leader. Michael, your question.
Under what circumstances is one considered to be poor, and by who, and what modalities are used to arrive to this conclusion?
Good question. Who decides that I'm poor? Ramon.
I think you can assess yourself based on this criteria. There is what we call social and material poverty. Now, in terms of social poverty, we want to look at your ability to feed yourself, to have some minimum nutritionally balanced food. You should be able to have clothing. You should be able to have shelter. You should be able to access education facilities for your family, etc. You should be able to clothe. If you get the basic minimum of that, then we can say you are doing well, you are not very poor. But then if that quality goes below a point where you cannot access proper shelter, you cannot access clothing, you cannot afford education for your family, you cannot eat, then you definitely are at a point where we can say you are poor. That's my basic understanding.
All right, then Bramal, who comes up with these benchmarks, like you've just told us? Who comes up with them? Who decides that if somebody doesn't have, you've talked about quality, food or clothing or education, who decides that this person is now poor?
Okay, we have international benchmarks that have been made by the international institutions like the United Nations Development Program, the World Bank, and the like, what we may call international standards for measuring who is poor and who is not. And sometimes they use the criteria, such a criteria like per capita income. Like in Kenya, we're currently at $650. If one is earning $650, then we say you are just at that brink.
That is per month.
That's
per month.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then if it goes to, I mean, if it goes far below that, then you are very poor, so to speak. And that's why in Kenya now we are saying, according to the Vision 2030, medium-term plan, by the year 2012, it's expected that the initiatives the government has put in place should enable people to go beyond $650 to about $900. Okay. So if one can eventually get that kind of income and is able to access those basic needs, then we'll say it's moving out of poverty. But then on the other hand, at the individual level, look at the what we make the people we may call like the Turkana and the Maasai. Yes. They live in the way they do. You'll have your own opinion about their level of poverty. But then remember the cattle they have, yes, the camel they have. If translated into monetary terms, you might find that they are much richer than us. Exactly.
Right. Thank you for that. Tazim, do you agree with these benchmarks of defining who a poor person is?
I think for our African standards, we really need to consider whether we want to go by international benchmarks. Our standards, our quality of living, our methods of acquiring income are very different from first world countries. So I think we've got to set our own benchmarks because we have completely different education systems, we have completely different requirements on our continent. And so if we relate it to what an American or a European is working from, I think we may be outstretching ourselves a little bit.
You call yourself a paradigm shifter.
Yes.
Is this part of it? Can you, how do you shift paradigms now from the international benchmarks of measuring poverty? What do you propose?
We create our own systems of measurement. We have enough talent, enough intelligence within our own continent to create our own systems.
So you're coming back to that. You're going to tell us the new ways that you propose. But Ken, these international benchmarks vis-a-vis the government of Kenya's benchmarks to measure poverty, do you agree with them?
I don't agree with them. And for me, Jason, as I grew up, my father constantly told me, even to answer the question that was asked, how do you measure a poor man or a woman? My father constantly told me that a poor man or woman is one whose spirit has been impoverished. And as I've grown up, notwithstanding the fact that I've done in economics, I understand what the commissioner is saying, but I have come to the fundamental realization that a poor man or woman is indeed a person whose spirit has been impoverished. What I mean by that is, if you look at, for instance, a country like the Congo is one of the richest countries in the world in terms of resources. Angola is one of the richest countries in the world. In fact, right now it's even overtaken Nigeria in terms of oil production. But if you look at those two countries, they are one of the poorest countries in the world. Why? Because of the spirit of the people. A poor man will look at Mombasa and say, I don't have a car. I don't have this, I don't have that, I can't get to Mombasa. But a spiritually rich man will say, I am going to Mombasa. It may take him or her a week or 2 weeks to get to Mombasa, walking, but they will get there. Don't forget that Kivoi, I'm sure you used to read history. Chief Kivoi used to walk from the coast to the interior. But today we will tell ourselves we can't. And I want you to reflect on what Obama did. With one statement, he said, yes, we can. Do we as a people in this country believe we can? Because it is one thing. It is one thing for the government to come up with plans upon plans. But we the people, you the person who's being planned for, does not even believe you can. You sleep the whole day. You are given a job to do, you do it shoddily. You want what your neighbor has, he has 10 cows, you want to take them. And I like again what the commissioner said. If you think about it, when we don't have a drought situation, for instance, you will have a Maasai with about 1,000 head of cattle. And if you give that cow, assuming it is well fed during the rainy season, an average of about 10,000 shillings, he's actually walking around with 10 million shillings.
Wow.
But you know what?
Right.
He will engage the nation and say, I am poor.
All right. I think, Bramwell, you need this guy in your commission. Huh? You need Ken in your commission. Dr. Ndambuki, your take.
Yes, I think I want to agree with Ken. And I want to agree that there's a time we reached a point where we said, yes, you can be poor at heart. And I think exactly what he's saying interpreted means you are poor at heart. As a person who is aware of human resource and other resources available to us, I know we can say we are poor, yes, as a nation. But when we look at ourselves, the resources we have, we look at how have we used those resources? Have we exploited every opportunity that we have as individuals, as a society, as a nation? Because poverty means you have nothing around you. If you have a glass, you can use it to make your ends meet. And I think it is that poverty at heart that we want to fight as a nation.
As we grapple with these international benchmarks,
yes.
Do you agree with these international benchmarks?
Okay, I think my take is this. First of all, we need local ways of measuring who is poor and who is not poor, and then how do we deal with that situation. But at the same time, we don't live in a vacuum. So we cannot really completely escape from using international measurements, because when it comes to comparison between countries, among countries, and comparing yourself where you are, sometimes for purposes of just knowing how well you are doing, it's important to appreciate and probably try to use international standards. But I think that is not the way we should measure ourselves, because some communities, the poorest person is the one who have no chicken in their compound. Yes, because they cannot get an egg, they cannot get a balanced diet.
That is their benchmark.
Exactly. That is their benchmark. In some communities, if you have no 5 goats, then you are poor. But if you have 5 goats, you can sell one, you can eat one, and you can pay fees, you can buy food, you can have your shelter.
Where do you come from?
I come from Eastern Province.
Which constituency?
Makueni. Boni constituency.
How do you measure poverty in that rural place where you come from?
Okay, in Boni constituency, for example, if you don't have a fruit tree in your shamba, you are poor. It is you, but we blame that person because that person did not take action. As he says, you are blaming other people for poverty. There's oranges doing very well in Makueni. You don't plant one tree and the next time another tree, and you don't keep one chicken for your children to take an egg, and you don't keep one goat for your children to take milk. Then you are poor.
All right. Very, very interesting. This interesting discussion continues after the break. Stay with us.